Ryan Sullivan of the Ivory Connection here, man. We're talking heating and different ways to heat your enclosures. I get all kinds of questions about how to heat your environments, and there's a multitude of different ways you can go about doing it, actually. Even here in my own collection, depending on where my cages are and who I'm housing in them, I heat things a little bit differently. Now, as a whole, my shop space is ambiently heated. I keep it usually on the swing between about 80 degrees and 84 degrees, kind of depending on what time of year it is. In the summer times, we get some peaks where we get 86, 87 in there. I let it go ahead and get a little warmer in the summer. So then when it shifts back in the winter, we really get a good shift. We get back down in those lower 80s. 80, 82 is really where I start to see my females start to cool and breeding atmosphere starts to really ensue then. So with that said, even though I ambiently heat my rooms, my Burmese pythons, man, if that cage shifts 5 degrees overnight in the middle of winter like I let some of my retics do, those Burms will get upper respiratories and be sick almost overnight. So all of my Burmese python cages have some RHPs in them, some radiant heat panels. Radiant heat panels, there's a number of companies that make these. I think these are Reptile Basics. These are probably some older Reptile Basics ones here that I've got around. They are wonderful, wonderful pieces of equipment. This is never going to cook your snake realistically. If you've got this hooked up to a thermostat and your probe in there placed appropriately, you're not going to have an issue with this cooking animals like you will with a lot of times you hear with other ways to run heat. Especially you always hear problems with heat tape. Even with heat tape, if your heat tape is wired appropriately and run to a thermostat, it's pretty damn safe. Now, I don't ever want to heat an environment entirely with anything. I see people all the time, and I don't know what the hell you do. You live in North Dakota. I live in Texas. It don't get negative butt fuck here. We stay in the 40s is like a cold winter usually. My heater keeps up with it. I don't understand how, though, if you're going to heat the entire bottom of an environment, man, it gets risky then, because if you do get a hot spot or you do get a short and stuff gets warm all of a sudden, you risk cooking your animal. So I never personally like to heat an entire environment with belly heat. It's just not a wise idea to me. Maybe half and half belly heat and a radiant panel is the way to go there. So then you at least know that radiant panel is not going to ever get super hot. And if you were to have a short and your under tank were to get a little on the warm side, they could escape that to the opposite side of the environment. There's got to be some way to skin that cat. But here in Texas, generally speaking, we only want a hot spot and a nice ambient room. If your ambient temp in your room for your retics is 78-ish or so, and you've got a hot spot in there with a radiant panel that's in your 86, 88 degree range, they're going to thermoregulate on their own. They're going to do very, very well. Now, a Burmese python, totally different story. Do not let that snake ever get below 80. Really, your hatchlings, 82 to 86 is a good little range there. I don't like to ever hit 90. To me, 90 is stressful. 90 is too damn hot. 90 in a tub is hard to escape as well. You know, it's hard to have a backside of a tub 90 degrees and a front side of the tub 82, 84 degrees in a little bitty ass hatchling tub. So I don't ever let my stuff peak on my burns more than 86, but I never let them drop below 80. So, all this said, whether you want to go under tank heaters and pads and mats like we've talked here, RHPs, radiant heat panels, there's not really a right or wrong. To me, in my personal opinion, I think the RHP is a safer option. But either way, always have a thermostat involved. Always have extra probes around. Probes want to go bad for every once in a while. You know, it seems like every 2 or 3 years at least a probe on one of my thermostats will go out. And I try to keep at least 2 or 3 extras around just at any time. So I start hearing that beep in the middle of the night and my probe's not working or whatever. I can go in there, I can swap that probe out, never skip a beat, no big deal. Now that is the big difference too though. Your probe goes out on these RHPs at a certain point, they're going to top out and they're never going to cook your animal. Whereas if your probe goes out on these under tank mats with this heat tape stuff, they're just going to start spiking. As soon as it can't read that probe, this mat starts cooking and going hotter and hotter. It'll get 200-300 degrees. It'll cook everything in that tub. So you really want to be on top of your thermostats and you really want to be on top of your probes and make sure all your equipment is working at all times. Like I was talking about with incubation even, you want to always be prepped before you just throw an animal into an environment. You should have a heat gun, temp gun, where you can go through and you can check the temps on that environment 2-3 times over maybe 2-3 weeks. Make sure everything is right and functioning in that environment before you go introducing an animal to it where things might be slightly off or things can still go wrong. That's heating. Man, Ryan Sullivan of the Ivory Connection. Y'all be good. Ivory Connection.